Good afternoon, all. On behalf of Applied Theatre India Foundation and ICCR, I would like to welcome you all to the sixth session of first ever virtual conference on role of applied theatre in Indian society. Before some days, many people were talking about IQ, but today we have realized that not only IQ, but EQ, that is emotional quotient, and also SQ, that is social quotient, are equally important for development of a child. Is there any creative way to develop social and emotional skills of children? Yes. Our speaker, Mahrukh Bharucha from Pune, research on this question. I welcome Mahrukh Bharucha. Mahrukh has been teaching speech, drama, communication skills, voice, public speaking to students and imparting training in learner-centric methodology and pedagogy to teachers in India and overseas since 1986. She is the India's representative for Lambda UK, that is London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. Let's welcome our speaker, Mahrukh Bharucha. I request her to share her research on enhancement of social emotional skills in children using dramatic elements. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I should thank the Applied Theatre India Foundation, especially Kaustubh, who's always been such a dear colleague, contemporary, and also friend. And I'm delighted at this opportunity, actually. It's one of the first times I've been sort of, with a gun on my head, forced to write a paper. And I must say, I'm very thankful for that, because it kind of helps you to consolidate all the wealth of information that one holds up here. So the topic that I selected to talk about was the enhancement of the social emotional skills in children using drama. And this is something which is an important topic, very close to my heart, and something that I truly believe in. It's something I'm very passionate about, because a long time ago I realized that the combination of skills that I have during my lifetime acquired start with the drama, then there's English language, and then there's management. And for anyone who kind of talks about management, one realizes that finally it's all about managing people, managing behaviors, and getting a kind of a balance of sorts. And drama, in any form, when it's used in education, is a fabulous way to go about it. So there we are. That's my formal topic for the day. And let me start by asking you a simple question. As a parent or as a teacher or as an education policy maker, 35 years from today, or when your child is 35, what do you wish to see in your child? Whatever age your child is today, when that child is 35 years old, where no one can doubt that now they are complete adults, or at least should be, what do we really want to see in our children? And over the years, during all my sessions and trainings with multiple people, these are the answers that have come up over and over again in different languages, in different jargon, using different terminologies. But finally, when you sort of filter down all the concepts that people talk about, this is what we get. This is what we want our future generations to be, whether we are parents, teachers, policymakers, governments, or whatever. These are some of the adjectives. When you read the paper, they'll be there in full detail, that we all want our children to imbibe. We want our children to be these adjectives, not their counter negative ones. And then the question is, how? How do we come to a point where our children have had an education where these career readiness competencies can be visibly found in our kids? We want to see the teamwork and the collaboration. We want individuals capable of critical thinking and problem solving. We want employees who have fabulous oral and written communication skills. We want the technological applications, the STEM subjects, quite greedily. We even want our, base level employees to at least display some leadership skills. We definitely want the professionalism, the work ethics, sort of a plan for the career so that they can sort of manage themselves and their continuous professional development and so on and so forth. So then that brings me to the entire concept of SEL, or social emotional learning. And under CASEL, or Collaborative of Academic, Social and Emotional Learning, that is based in the US, over 2 decades ago, they kind of narrowed down or filtered down the competencies into 5 main competencies, which are right now in front of you. Look at them and think about them. If all of us had complete self-awareness, we had complete control over our self-management, we were all capable of fabulous responsible decision making, we had a very high social awareness, and we had very, very fabulous relationship skills, where would we be? We would have no divorces, we would have no breakups, we would have no firing employees, we would have no conflict whatsoever. So in a utopian world, a world without conflict, if that's what we're aiming for, this is what we need to work towards: high levels of SEL. But now we as people like me, we work with children, and children need to learn. They need to learn a lot. And suddenly, instead of talking about the math or the history and the geography and the science and so on and so forth, instead of talking about subjects, instead of talking about content, if we suddenly start looking at these 5 elementary social emotional skills, how should we go forward? And my answer to this simple question is always and every time: drama. Theater also, yes, but more drama. And I borrowed this really ancient definition of drama, where they sort of highlight the fact that drama, when used in a classroom, must be improvisational. It is not for a show, so it's not exhibitional. It's definitely process-centered and process-driven. And there are no preconceived outcomes. They are always open to outcome. All drama sessions can't have a teacher. There cannot be a teacher who comes into the class and says, by the time I leave today, I will have covered all these topics. My children will know all this. My children will have discussed all this. Because, well, like Dr. Sampath said this morning, there is magic in theater. And the magic comes from the individualistic DNA, fingerprinting, thought process that every individual brings to the dramatic learning space. Imagine what a world of a difference education will go through, what a transformation it will go through if teachers actually walk into the class with a lesson plan which they are ready to throw away. Improvisation, I literally took a screenshot of the BBC guidelines for the GCSE, for the drama subject. And it says that you just go in and let things happen. Let the learning take care of itself. Let the students take ownership. And after 35 plus years in drama as a teacher, I can vouch for the fact that even 4-year-olds are fully capable of taking control, taking ownership of a little topic that starts out a little role play. All right, you're the mummy, this one is the child. Now you explain to your child why it's dangerous for you to run around bare feet in this environment. A simple lesson which I don't need to lecture about. I don't need to say, listen, you better put on your shoes because this place is strewn with little pieces of glass. Sorry, not necessary. The children will do it on their own because there's a wealth of wisdom that even a 4-year-old has. It's just that we as teachers need to tap into our skills to be able to draw the child's wisdom rather than pour in our ghasapita old wisdom into them. There's a lot of spontaneity in improvisation. Words like unplanned and unrehearsed and no script and spontaneous ideas come into the definition of improvisation. And when that happens, one sees that the preparation for life, not for one's first job or not for one's admission into a new university, are the aim. The preparation for life becomes the aim. And this is my favorite reason for talking about social emotional learning, because if we sort of think about it, our entire life gets spent in trying to learn the difference between reactions and responses. All problems that every human being faces in this world is because the human being reacted rather than responded. And my favorite way to say it is the difference between a reaction and a response is the pause. It's the pause that allows you to think. It's the pause that allows you to consider, to even plan your words, your next action, and so on and so forth. But this is easier said and done. It's easier said and done. And of all the arts that I know of, I love the drama the most, simply because it gives me situations, it gives me little spaces to consider problem areas and then practice the response and also show and highlight the damaging consequences of reactions. Again and again, I love to refer to the pause because it's the pause that allows me to think, to reflect, to consider my response, and then finally even decide whether I want to respond or not. Sometimes no response can be the best response. And children learn this beautifully through drama. This is an emotional wheel that I use when we're talking to children about vocabulary. When we want to build their vocabulary for the different emotions that they're supposed to have. This is, a ready little thing that I found online. And wow, it's wonderful. I don't think it covers all the words. I don't think so at all. But they are fabulous words. They're not all, they're not all there, but lots of them are there. But think about how often we talk to children about these words. How often we expect children to know the difference between anxious and insecure, between despair and bored, between hateful and aggressive, or for that matter, between awe and awful. What is the difference between awe and awful? They sound almost the same. Drama gives me an opportunity, and teachers an opportunity, and parents an opportunity to allow kids to very naturally, organically, and almost viscerally increase their vocabulary for the self-learning, for the self-awareness, because that is where everything starts. If I want to drive change, I have to first be the change. If I need people to adjust and adapt, well, I should be able to adjust and adapt. And where better to learn those skills than in a drama class? I'm not going to go too much into the activities that one conducts during drama sessions, because I think over this weekend, a lot of the panelists will be talking about that. Already I've seen, many pictures being shared, many activities being discussed about what can be done and how it can be done and how it could be, done, and even sort of talking about where it could go wrong and so forth, so on and so forth. That there's a wealth of activities that a drama teacher or a teacher who wishes to use drama for her subject or his subject can sort of, borrow and start using. So I'm not going to really discuss too many activities. I'm looking more at the impact, the sort of the need for drama and its impact. This again is one of the favorite slides that have been created in the last few months by a very dear colleague of mine. It allows me to talk to all of you about the balance between head, heart, and hands. So literally our intellect, our emotions, and our skills or our reactions and our responses. Because all our actions are usually out there, physical. Our emotions are in here and they affect everything. They affect our thoughts, they affect our behavior, they affect the very nature of the beast where emotions are concerned, that they drive us. Now, whether they drive us crazy or they drive us into a good space is something that we need to learn ourselves and then hopefully try to imbibe in our kids. And drama brings about a fabulous opportunity for the children again to think, feel, and act. And it's a space where all of this is happening simultaneously. So during an improvisation, when you are behaving, when you are supposed to be acting out the part of, say, the watchman, and you are supposed to be dealing with children who are stealing mangoes from your garden, suddenly some transformation occurs. I am no longer the little 8-year-old naughty child. I am the watchman. So I have to think like the watchman, I have to feel like the watchman, and I have to act like the watchman. And somewhere, very organically, the learning that, okay, when a watchman finds me stealing, the watchman has to react like this or has to respond like this. So the reflection and the transference of learning happen almost organically. It's wonderful if, like Dr. Sampath said in the morning, if you keep some time later for reflection. In fact, even Ravi, who talked about the theatre of the oppressed, will always talk about the reflection time. It's fabulous, it's needed. But most of the times, in my opinion, it happens naturally even before the teacher sits down with the class in circle time and discusses these things. Because the connections are very real. It's not something in a book or something on a blackboard which I'm copying and I have to write about. And, actually I'm thinking about my friends and the lovely dabba mummy has packed for me. But TK, now in this lesson, I have to sit and study this. It's not like that. When you're in the class, when you're doing the drama, when you're participating in an improvisation, you are all there, all of you in entirety. And that is the magic. This comes now to the question of why do we even consider all these alternative methods? When we talk about social emotional learning, when we talk about the 5 elements of social emotional learning, it comes down to the critical question about what are we doing in our educational institutions? Are we teaching our children what to think? Are we giving them the words, the gyan, the wisdom, the knowledge, the skills which we think may be useful to them? Or are we going to give them the tools to think for themselves? We teach them how to think. Because maybe if we do the second one, we will leave the children better equipped to face a more and more uncertain world. I think this pandemic has shown all of us that none of us can predict the future. Most of us in the month of February had no clue how our lives were going to be transformed over the next 9 to 10 months. The way the schools have adapted, teachers have adapted, education systems have had to adapt, and the way the parents and the teachers have coped sort of encourage me to think that yes, for whatever it's worth, when schools focus on the how to think rather than what to think, and if they try to use drama to do it, the drama will make the job easy and the impact will be long lasting and quite beautiful. Many, many years ago in the early 90s, I read this book by Robert Fulghum. It's a really sweet, really funny book. It's got little chapters, all standalones. But his preface to the entire book starts with these lessons, these life lessons. And if you take the time to read them, and I'm leaving them on the screen for a bit, one realizes that life's lessons are not that difficult actually. If we follow most of these rules, it's fabulous. And these rules apply to a child in kindergarten. They apply to a student during middle school and high school. They apply to college-going students. They apply to adults. They apply to family. They apply to friend circles. These rules apply to communities. And they also apply to states and nations. But no one took the time to teach through drama how important these skills are. In a nutshell, these are all your self-awareness and self-management and social awareness skills. And they lead to your responsible decision-making. They lead to your relationship skills. And drama, through its various activities, can be used in order to bring about the change that we wish to see in our worlds today and for the future. Another one of my favorites is to sort of use a simulator, a flight simulator as a metaphor for drama, where drama becomes a simulator for life. Just like a pilot will not be given an aircraft on day one, just like a pilot needs a lot of hand-holding in order to learn the skills to fly a plane, and then also the mental and emotional makeup and the courage in order to fly that plane, so one needs a simulator for life, because life is perhaps one of the most dangerous vehicles that we are going to ride on or ride in. And again, in front of you, look at the outcomes that one gets when one focuses on SEL. Who doesn't want conflicts to be resolved peacefully? Who wants these politicians and government agencies and even states and countries to go on and on and on asserting their right to be right? Why can't people just respect the right to disagree? Why do we have to mask our concerns? Why can't we just express them? What about finding common goals and interests rather than constantly looking for all the differences which sort of break society down and break humanity down? Is there a way to teach children how to open themselves up to different points of view and outcomes? Is there a way to understand, and again, these are dramatic terms, the difference between text, subtext, and context? So, literally, what is said, what is unsaid, the words, reading between the lines, the body language, the expressions. Are we teaching children to work with all these elements? Well, if we worked with drama, we would. Sometimes it becomes very difficult when there's a lot of noise, when conflict arises, to lose track of the original problem. Or sometimes it's very difficult to sort of say, okay, so this is the essence of your problem. And drama again would allow the exploration of skills that would help us to identify and even articulate these kind of major issues. Is it only always going to be my way or the highway? Or are there alternative solutions? Is there a way to reasonably compromise? Most husbands will say no. Most wives will definitely say no. And is there actually something as a fair cooperative agreement? All right, I'll give some, you give some, and let's see how this goes forward. And let's just sort of take the best foot, let's all put our best foot forward and let's go with whatever's best. And drama allows for all this to happen. It allows for all this to happen within half an hour in the classroom. And finally, of course, when I send out my final paper, you will read that the research is overwhelming. It's not research that was conducted in India. It's a research that was conducted in the US of A. And for every dollar that they spent on social emotional learning, on investing in social emotional learning for children at an early age, they saved $11 in the long run because that child's life transformed. The moment there is drama and high SEL in a child's life, the child becomes more aspirational. There is a way for them to imagine a better life. It starts with being less dependent on substances. So substance abuse has been chronicled to have gone down. There is a huge movement in the financial status of that individual. There is a way for that individual to imagine life outside of the debilitating poverty that they sometimes are part of. They imagine a better world. They've learned the skills to work for a better world. And they've also learned to accept that, okay, even if I'm in a problem today, don't I have the skills or can't I acquire the skills that will help me to get out of this abysmal condition? So I suppose there's no way of asking me questions right now since this is a Facebook share. So I'll stop the share and I'll continue talking. Is there anyone on the panel who wishes to ask me any questions, or shall I just go on doing what I'm doing? Vaishali or Parag, you might have to tell me what exactly.
Yes, you can carry on.
All right. So the 5 social emotional skills, now I'll start talking about them one by one. Let's look at self-awareness. Self-awareness and drama. I already showed you that emotional wheel. Imagine the vocabulary as well as the actual understanding of all these different emotions. Imagine childhoods that go into adulthood thinking that you're either only happy or sad or angry or nervous, vis-a-vis the wealth of emotions that we have, the linguistic wealth available in order to articulate those. And again, the fundamental scope of drama that allows this kind of learning to occur within the dramatic space. Self-management. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Again, the exploration can happen through drama. Very, very very elementary kind of, there's improvisation, there's hot seating, there's question and answers, there's image theater, there's all sorts of drama games. If I were, imagination development games, and so on and so forth. There are games which use only words. There are games which don't allow for any language. There's also games which encourage only the using of gibberish. So it's then, you're talking, you're uttering utter nonsense. So you're able to recognize the emotion and then learning to manage that emotion and maybe streamlining it in a more positive way, in a responsive rather than a reactive way. Social awareness. Literature is a great boon to create social awareness. I grew up in a generation that encouraged reading, but about 20-25 years ago, I realized that it was an uphill task to get children to read, unless, of course, the background was a lovely reading background. So imagine parents who come home and promptly plonk themselves in front of the television and then insist that now children should read. It doesn't work like that. So over the years, we've definitely lost the urge to read. Our children have definitely lost the urge to read. I dare say there are many, many exceptions, but the general tendency has been lesser and lesser of actual reading. So people like me grew up reading, we grew up reading about Europe and America and Russia and all sorts of different cultures and stuff. Where are children supposed to learn this now? Once again, I'd say, of course, there is a lot of content, but where is the practice? So in order to understand cultures, in order to have social awareness, different drama games, different dramatic approaches that bring in diversity. A short while ago, I was introduced to two fabulous terms, and I'm still reading and researching on them. One is intersectionality. One is heteronormative and moving away from the heteronormative. What fabulous concepts. What an inclusive environment it would be if schools accepted that they did not need to be heteronormative. And what fabulous social awareness would increase if drama was used in a class to showcase the fact that we and our world don't need to be heteronormative at all. Once again, coming to responsible decision making, a little, different role play, one set of role play with chits for different outcomes. So the child knows that, okay, I'm supposed to be, a driver, and my fellow actor today is going to be the passenger. And the first scenario is, okay, we are driving. And then what happens? What is the conflict, or what is the point of, what is the problem? Where's the point where the problem or the conflict begins? And then little chits to give different scenarios that they can work out. What if the driver doesn't agree with the passenger? What if the passenger becomes violent? What if the passenger wants to get suicidal and jump out of the car? Imagine the wealth of alternatives that one can explore in the safety of a drama class or a drama session whether it's being held in a garden or whether it's being held in a classroom or a little studio, is almost irrelevant. But as long as one is exploring alternative solutions, alternative pathways to look at the same problem, one can sort of work towards building skills that make for better critical thinking, for sharper critical thinking, for better problem solving, and definitely for more and more responsible decision making. And although usually poor relationship skills get said last, I think it's last, but it's definitely, one of the best. Imagine a world where all of us possessed fabulous relationship skills. What does one do, or what should one do when there is bereavement in the family? What is the difference between a grandparent passing away, a parent passing away, a friend passing away, and a sibling passing away? We can talk about such serious issues without a lecture, with just dramatic play. And this is not play. Of course, it's not play. It's very serious business, but it's a lot of fun, very immersive. It gets literally get involved where they forget themselves. And it's so therapeutic. It's so cathartic. Children are able to work with and thrive with their emotions. They are able to recognize, work with, and thrive with other people's emotions. And there is respect that gets built for all sorts of situations and all sorts of people. What can be better for relationship skills building than an individual, a young individual who has these fabulous skills? My life has pretty much been spent in drama. I haven't been able to, get the drama out of me ever. For those of you who've realized what my organization is called, it's called Expressions Unlimited. And I think unlimited is the scope of using drama in a class for anything, especially for social emotional learning. Thank you very much. I hope this has been useful for all of you. I know drama and SEL have been phenomenal in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bharucha ma'am, for your valuable presentation. Your research is very useful for all parents, teachers, and theatre persons. Thank you for this value-added information. I would also like to thank you all who joined with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. Now we take a small break and we'll be back at 4 p.m. with our speaker Sanket Raze from Mumbai. Stay with us. Thank you all.